Welcome to Redbeard Radio. I'm Brian Keith, and today we are talking about events and the future of virtual events with Elias Punrunen of a company up in Canada, Tractus Event Passport, where it's a platform that makes live events, live online events, as good as we can make anything online. It really makes it better than in-person events in some ways. Elias is here to go tell us about how that works and what is going to make an online event better than in person. Elias, welcome to Redbeard Radio.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me on today.
Now, I was speaking at a convention, at the Keep convention here this last autumn, and it was interesting. I had about 20 people in the room, and I had another maybe 10 or so virtually. And there was a little camera on my side there. And so I got to go be talking to the room, but also while talking in the mic so the virtual people could hear me. But also then when I gave a workshop question to the room, I would then go turn to the people who are online who are commenting on a Google Sheet so I could answer their questions back. And it was interesting. It wasn't bad, but it was different. And it was a bit awkward, perhaps, to try to go combine in-person and online at the same time. So can you give us a vision of the future that's not awkward, but still awesome?
For sure. I mean, what we're heading into now with virtual events, with hybrid events, and with in-person events, we now have a chance to look at the different mediums and go, when do we want to use each one of these? Each one has different strengths or weaknesses. At the beginning of the pandemic, everybody kind of pined for, can't wait to get back to in-person because it'd be great to see everybody. But it turns out that there's a number of events that are happening mostly because we had hotel contracts that we needed to fulfill and we couldn't push forward any further. But we had gone back to in-person and kind of did the same thing that we were doing online. Like just have an expert at the front of the room, talk to the whole room, and then they go off and catch their next flight to their next conference. So each medium gives us a different opportunity. And it's not about whether in-person, online, or hybrid is better or worse than one another. It's how can you take advantage of these different mediums in the best way possible? Because you think about when we're doing virtual, when you do virtual, like we're recording a podcast right now. This podcast is going to live on A, forever. B, for folks that are listening to it right now, they can choose to speed me up, slow us down.
Yeah.
Consume at their own pace, pause us, go take a break, come back, or do something else in the background while they're consuming the content in a way that you can't do with live.
Yeah.
So where the future, I think, lies is saying, okay, where do these mediums make sense? What can we do in person that we just cannot replicate online? And what can we do online that we can't replicate in person?
Well, the first one is an easy answer for me, which is when I first started going to the Keep convention back in 2012, I would go to all the classes. Oh man, I'd be taking notes. I was that guy. And then after a few years, I ended up, I'd go to some of the courses, some of the presentations, but I was more in the hallway talking to people. And then a couple of years after that, now I'm just the guy in the hallway talking to people. I'm about to go off to the Keep Partner Convention, and I will probably attend one or two sessions over the course of a few days. But I'm there to go just let things arise by rubbing shoulders with people who are my colleagues. And I've never seen a good solution to that for online events that's going to give me that same, hey, randomly I bump into a friend, we start having a conversation, and then something beautiful happens. How does Tractus Events support that beautiful synchronicity that live events are so good at?
Well, here's something critical about live events is we've done this without really thinking about it, which is a lot of times we build live events with blocks of time where we can make that serendipity happen, right? We build those break periods where we can let you rub shoulders with other people. There's a reason why we don't just sit you in a conference room and go for 8 hours straight without even a bathroom break. Is because a big part of going to those in-person conferences is that bumping shoulders, rubbing elbows, talking with people that you haven't seen, and also meeting people, for the first time, especially in the vendor halls. Online, I think where we've struggled during pandemic and where we're starting to get better is we have to make those connections a lot more deliberate. We have to give people not just the tools to connect with one another, but we need to teach them, here's how to be deliberate about your networking. Just like you were mentioning with that, with running those sessions of having to talk to the in-person audience and then look at the camera in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Part of what we're doing with our clients is beyond just building the platforms and saying, here's where we can host these awesome online events. We're also saying, we're also helping them build the schedule so that we have those impromptu times that, this is the networking block. Let's build out some breakout rooms and some online experiences where people can rub elbows. Let's teach folks how to build out an online profile that gets somebody interested to say, I want to talk with you. And we also get people used to the idea that when you're online and you're consuming content online, kind of like on Twitter, you could leave a like or leave a comment under somebody's post. You might not see that like for 3 or 4 hours, depending on how often you check your phone.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have that conversation asynchronously. You can have that conversation over a long period of time and build a connection over a long period of time. So you're not limited to these 2 or 3 days. You could, these events that we're starting to work on, like you can do a week or 2-week long events and build connections over a longer period of time. That's part of what we're doing with our clients is showing them, look, you're not limited to the conference center now. Like if you want to have pre-show, post-show, and build up your community over time, you can do that.
Well, let me tell you something that's worked for me, and then you can tell me how you're going to make it better.
Sure.
I was running a virtual summit for a client. We recorded everything in StreamYard in advance. So there was no live streamed content the day of the virtual summit. It was a one day. And we timed everything so there was breaks. Like you're saying, don't put everyone in a room for 8 hours. So we had content. Each block was it was either based on half hour, hour long, if I recall. And we had 5 to maybe 20 minutes between. But we ran it all on YouTube Live. So we streamed live to YouTube, and then we pressed the button that automatically forwarded people from one session to the next session. So when one session ended, everybody who was there automatically got put into the next. Their URL changed. They're now in the next one, and they can continue chatting. They've lost their old chat, but now they can continue chatting. Whoever's already chatting in the room, folks who walk into that room, because now they finally got to the one they wanted to go to, so they hopped into the YouTube Live. They see the conversation there. And then the team and myself are also live in the chat, even though the video thing is recorded in advance. So we have a lot of attention on answering the individual questions we get from the people. Worked pretty effectively. Was a great thing for that client. Now tell me, what is your solution? What is Tractus doing that I was not doing in that situation?
So one of the really cool things that you could take advantage of is, again, I get back to doing stuff like breakout rooms. We run
Mm-hmm.
a lot of our events, not just on our platform, but we take advantage of a lot of the stuff that Zoom has built. For better or for worse, Zoom has become probably one of the best platforms out there for doing virtual events.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gotten even better with some of the tools that they've recently acquired. A couple months ago, we did an event with a client. They brought all of their sales team together. We had about 250 people on Zoom for the whole day. And throughout that day, we broke everyone into teams of about 6 to 8 people. They had their assigned breakout rooms where they could mingle with each other. We were bringing all of the exhibitors. It was an internal trade show. We brought each of the exhibitors into each room, and we're shifting them around every 10 or 15 minutes or so. So each exhibitor had time to spend with each of these groups, answer questions one-on-one.
So hold on, the group stays put and the exhibitor moves around?
Exactly.
So did the team get to know each other then? The group got to know each other a bit, even though they're seeing new exhibitors? Is that part of your thing here?
Exactly. They got to
Huh.
know each other and build that, it was kind of their home room.
Right.
We called it in the back end. It was their home room. And then during kind of major lunch breaks, we would bring everybody back into the lobby and have just a set of general breakout rooms where if you're having a conversation with somebody or you want to, you haven't seen somebody in a long time, go grab a breakout room and chat with one another. I love what you said, which is giving people that individual attention. and giving them that way to build those relationships up. And I think as much as it's cool to fire lots of content at people and do lots of live streaming, there's again that online interaction, it has to be deliberate. So one of the ways that we're doing it at Tractus for our clients is helping our clients build schedules that say, you need to build this time into the schedule. This interacting and mingling online is not obvious at first. We're missing a lot of the physical cues, right? Like we don't see the other bodies in the room. We see the contact list. We don't have, when we're on Zoom or we're on Tractus, you have to raise your hand with the raise hand feature. There's no, gesturing yet. I mean, unless you're doing a VR thing, but
Not yet.
that's not quite mainstream
Yeah.
yet. We're getting there though. So a big part of what we're doing, and this is how we try to separate ourselves out from everybody else, is we're trying to go beyond just being an event platform. We're in the realm of helping our clients produce their event, like starting from here's what you did in the past. Here's, what do we want to pull off with this event? Like, why are we here? And figure out what's the best way that we can pull that off, given the time, budget constraints, all the constraints you might be facing.
2 questions. One is, what is the best size of breakout room when we're talking about having a cohort of people that are going to be around each other for the duration of the event? Is there a magic number that you found?
I like going with less than 10.
Oh, really?
I really like going with small. Think about it this way. When you're in person, and I just noticed this a few weeks ago when we were at an in-person event, if you've got a room full of people, everybody's a different distance away from you. So people that are further away from you are a lower volume when they're speaking. People that are closer are a higher volume, and you can filter all that out. Online, everybody's going to be at the same volume. Now, we've got ways to kind of work with that, sort of, and tweak volume, but that technology is still making its way into the mainstream. So if you get, say, 2 people that are having a conversation, especially if one person's domineering that conversation, it can be difficult to have more than a couple people being active participants in an online setting at a time. So I've found that the smaller the breakout room, you want to go, I found that anything less than 4 gets awkward.
Okay.
2's definitely not company because it's just 2 people. I found that at least 4, but less than 10 seems to be the nice magic number of breakout room size. It keeps it nice and intimate. The other key with a breakout room is if you can have, some call it a moderator, some call it an animator, someone who's kind of a group lead that can help facilitate and keep the chat on track and keep things moving. That can be a huge help, especially if it's a group of people that are randomly assigned or they don't know each other. That moderator, that facilitator can help break the ice between that group.
Love it. My second question is, what size of companies are using Tractus?
So we've done everything from, let me think here. Our smallest event that we've done, I think, was around 10 people. Our biggest event, we're gearing up for a 1,000 person plus internal trade show. We do a lot of corporate events. But one of our, we've got a major, 1,000 plus attendee conference coming up. It's going to be about 3 weeks long in May. And this is, this client, I love working with these guys because they're open-minded and flexible, which is all you need in a client. Like if you can find a client that's open-minded and flexible, like that's all you need. They used to run a 2-day trade show. We've taken their internal trade show and continuing education. So we've got, about 150 exhibitors. We've got 2 days worth of continuing ed sessions and 3 weeks worth of this trade show. And it's an opportunity for this company's, all of their stores to buy their merchandise for the holiday season coming up. And so we've stretched this out over 3 weeks because the company realized, wait a second, we don't have to slam every single store through in 16 hours. We don't have to, they can come in, the stores can come in, check out all the different exhibitors, check them out over time, attend some of their sessions, do their ordering and, get questions answered. And they can do that kind of at their own pace because a lot of these store managers are busy. We're coming up to I'm trying to think what the season is that we're coming up to because it's their um, NDAs and all that. So I have to be careful what I
The
say.
holiday season,
Um,
one of them. We don't know which one, folks.
exactly, holiday season, one of them. But point is that they recognize that some of these store managers, during the day, well, they're going to be busy managing the
Right.
stores, so they're going to mostly be browsing the trade show at night.
Yeah.
Which means that chances are they're not going to talk to the exhibitor when the exhibitor might be around.
Hmm.
Or if they want to talk with a specific exhibitor, they need to schedule time with them.
Hmm.
And so that's part of what we're doing is giving them a platform to schedule time to talk one-on-one with these exhibitors to find out, tell me more about this product.
Hmm.
Tell me more about this new service.
That's interesting. This idea that maybe conferences in the future will instead of be like the one I'm about to go to, where it's in-person thing of which I don't know, maybe a third or half the attendees will be global from the home offices. But it's a 2.5 days of back-to-back sessions. The idea that that may actually become a relic of the past. Tell me, do you work in only English or do you work in French as well?
Ha! Well, I can read French and I can listen to French and comprehend it. Unfortunately, I do not have the functional French. We have done some French events in the past.
Hmm.
It's been a little while, but we've definitely got some work to do on the internationalization front on
Oh,
our
I'm not
app.
talking internationalization. I'm talking Quebecois. You might enjoy episode 16 of Redbeard Radio with Philippe Bussier, Marketing pour le petit entrepreneur francophone. And as I say in that episode, I'm sorry for my horrible French, but that episode, episode 16 of Redbeard Radio, Philippe Bussier, is all about marketing to the French audience, French speaking audience. And he brings up in that episode that even the word for email is different between France and Quebec. And so you can't
Right.
just internationalize, quote unquote, your product and it's fine. That working with local people understand. And so I'm thinking, oh man, Tractus. How many virtual event companies are there that will do your event in French, but they'll do it in specifically Quebec French?
And not Google Translate
Oh,
French.
Google. No, no. As I learned from that episode talking to Philippe, that would be a very bad idea.
Oh yeah, the dialects are completely different. It's they're quite fascinating to look at the Quebec French
Yeah.
versus Parisian French.
Tell us about your free event roadmap and where we can find it.
Yeah, so the free event roadmap, this is something that when I did a little bit of work with Joshua Lysak, awesome ghostwriter, he suggested that, given what we do for our clients, which is basically help them put on these, virtual events, the fact that we're basically the venue, the production agency, everything that they need, a lot of times when a client comes to us, they go, well, we need to put on this event. And they know that it needs to be virtual and their expertise kind of stops there. So they need somebody to help them kind of map out how do we take this vision of yours, which is you want to put on a virtual event, you want to educate your audience, you want to bring your exhibitors together. How do we take that and turn it into what does your virtual event look like? What does your registration process look like? How do you structure your sessions? So that is something that I like to do one-on-one with the folks when they fill out the info form on the Tractus website. You book some time with me. We spend about an hour together. By the end of it, you've got a nice little roadmap that shows you here's what you should be looking for. And roughly, here's the kind of budget you should have if you want to put on an event, like the one that you envision. And if that budget doesn't quite work, here's where you can negotiate.
Fantastic.
And it's and with part of that too, it's not just like obviously for us, there's the whole sales funnel aspect, but I want to make sure that when you book some time with me, that you're getting the most out of it. And if there is a platform and there is a service for pretty much every budget out there. Some folks are comfortable going the DIY route, and that's awesome. There's a lot of awesome platforms out there for you. Some folks just go, you know what, this is overwhelming. I need an agency to help me with this. That's where we come in. And I like to be able to give a lot of different options. I've recommended our competitors.
Mhm.
I'll be honest. I've recommended some of our competitors and some of the other complementary services on the market because there's lots of good options out there.
For folks who are considering adding a virtual event to your lineup, I've been involved in quite a few of them over my decade at Redbeard Consulting. And the answer is you're almost always spending at least twice as much time and energy, if not also money, than you think you will. So investing an hour in the before you start spending lots of cash and time and energy is a good ROI. That's my judgment. Having not worked with Elias, spending that extra time at the beginning to get really clear, that would probably make a lot more virtual events more successful.
Well, and it'll help you figure out, are we doing an because a big scenario I keep coming into is folks come to me and say, I've got this in-person event and I want to go hybrid. That's the big thing right now. We want to go
Uh-huh.
hybrid. And a lot of times the vision of hybrid from their side is, well, that means that we stream out all of our content to the online audience. And that's a start. That's a form of hybrid, but how is that any better than just streaming out to the online audience? How do you want to involve the online audience? Do you want them to have content that is specific to them? Are your AV partners ready to go hybrid? A lot of we're working with a client right now, the hotel that they've booked, they're still figuring out their their internet capacity.
Oh
They're
boy,
still rewiring their whole network.
that's exciting.
So there's a lot of like, if you're going to go hybrid, like, yeah, you can do that. Don't forget too, we've just had 2 years of pandemic. Um, the hotels have absolutely hemorrhaged money
Mhm,
and they need to make it up on the other end. There's inflation. Venue costs are way up.
mhm.
Like most venues that we're talking about that you can book right now are booking at a premium because everyone that had a 2020 and 2021 event that postponed,
Yeah,
we're now competing for 2022.
yeah.
Everyone that had a 2020 or 2021 wedding
I
has
I just got
postponed.
married last year in 2021, and it was incredible how we got the last spot available when we were booking it a year before, and how by the time we actually had our wedding, they were booking 2 and 3 years out, where
Yeah.
it blows my mind that you could say I do today or say yes to whoever's proposing to you or propose to your lady and then not be able to have your wedding for 2 or 3 or 4 years. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
That's how behind a lot of these venues are. And I've got, one client that we're working with. Their cost to do their conference, because they're going hybrid, their in-person cost is about double
Oh.
what it was before the pandemic. We're talking going from, and it was already six figures.
Hmm.
They're going from, spending 100, at the venue to around 220.
Wow.
Now that's Canadian dollars. So that's what, $8 American these days?
I don't know. That exchange rate's been going pretty just pretty wonky. Uh, once up
But I mean, the point is that's before you go hybrid.
wow.
So, I mean, another part that you need to think about is the ROI of doing in person, especially if in person all you're doing is what you would have done online. What I dread to see is I don't want to see in person events, and I turn into people saying this could have been a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, I've been to things like that where I've thought this it could have been a Zoom meeting and Zoom meetings that could have been emails and emails that could have been text messages. You don't want to play
Yeah.
that game. Elias, for folks who want to learn more from you, there's tractus.ca, tractus.ca to get that free event roadmap. And then where should people go on social media to talk about how to protect their ROI, plan their event, and just get a good value from their event? Where's the best place social media wise?
Two places I hang out all the time are LinkedIn and Twitter. I'm more active on Twitter than I am LinkedIn, but message me on either platform. You'll find me. My Twitter handle is at AGFINN, AGFin. Used to be an abbreviation for Silverfin, which was an old development company of mine way back in the day.
Nice.
And then as well on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/Elias Punrunen, most likely. Anyway, look up Elias Punrunen Tractus. You'll find me.
Wonderful. Elias, thank you for being on Redbeard Radio.
It was an absolute pleasure. This was a ton of fun.